Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. Hello, and welcome to The Culture Hack. Today, I'm very excited to have with me Cher McArthur. She is the founder of Hummingbee Inc. And not only that, I used to work with her. So this is a throwback, and it's super fun. Welcome, Cher. Thanks so much for coming on.
Adam, thanks for taking the time.
First things first, Cher, tell us about Hummingbee. Tell us about that name. That's a really interesting name.
Hummingbee, wow, that came from the idea that hummingbirds and bees swoop in, do their thing, get out. So we're human resources, communications. We do a number of different things, primarily human resources, and supporting companies who don't have access to a large human resources department. So we give them all the things they need that if they're not a big company, they can't afford and they don't need them. So recruiting folks if they need recruiting, compensation, performance management, leadership support, training, development, onboarding, all that kind of stuff. Although I understand Enta Solutions is way cooler with how they do some of the onboarding stuff. So I think we'll have to look at what we're doing there, because boring dry here, so on this page is probably not as exciting for people as what you guys are doing, which is more digital and.
Well, thank you for that shout out. Yeah, in our own minds, we are creative in what we do, right?
That's good.
But, you're in the HR world, so you're dealing with people all the time. And we were just sharing, some fun, crazy stories about how unpredictable people can be. But I always like to ask about engagement because everyone has a different answer for that. So for you, when you're talking about an engaged team or helping with engagement from your point of view, what does that look like?
Well, I love when we get to do engagement work. I could talk, how much time do you have? Because I could write a book on engagement. I'm so fascinated by the things that excite people to come into work. And when we've got clients that we work with for 4 hours all the way up to like 100 hours a month type of agreement. So when we have the bigger agreements, we get engaged and involved in figuring out what engagement looks like for them. And ultimately it's like, does your team want to be on the same bus? Like, do you have everybody going in the same direction? And have you figured out what the direction is? Have you told them what their role in that is? Have you told them the importance of their role to get there? Do they have a job description, and does it make sense? Are they being compensated fairly for that? Like, there's just so many different things. And there are all the basic relationship things, like your people have to trust you. So if you're not being honest with your team, well, let's talk about why. And let's talk about how we change that. So figuring out how leadership can connect with their folks so that those people are all going in the same direction versus being on autopilot and you want them to go here, but they think they're going to their house. So they just sort of drift off. And now you've got safety concerns and you've got problems with getting things done and prioritization and et cetera, et cetera. So engagement is a massive topic, and I'm sure we don't have time for all of it, but getting people on that path.
Right. I love that. I love the idea. Somebody challenged me once to list the top 3 things I think my job is, and then to go ask your boss or your colleague the same question and then compare the answers. And I just thought that was a fascinating exercise, because I guarantee you're going to have some incredible conversations coming out of it.
I love this exercise.
Right?
Yes.
So,
I don't think duplication of efforts over here, because people think that, like, there's 3 people that think that they are accountable for that job. Right. And they're responsible for these pieces. So there are 3 people all doing the same thing. And then over here, no one really wants to do this task. So that task is being completely missed. And now something's being dropped for your client and because it's not clear. So a lot of wasted time here and a lot of things that get dropped over here.
Right. It's interesting, like comparing important versus favorite. Sometimes maybe those things. Right.
Yeah. And when it's not clear, it's really easy to gravitate toward that favorite instead of the thing that needs to happen.
Absolutely. But let's tell some stories. So you've helped companies with this type of thing. Do you have any success stories or examples of ways you've been able to help that you want to share?
Of course, I have to maintain confidentiality with all of my clients, and we do coaching and that sort of thing as well with teams. So, but yeah, I've worked with a lot of clients where they don't have clear job descriptions. They've grown fairly quickly, and now they're in this place where folks don't know who owns what. Or during COVID times, we went from being where everybody's in the office, and now we've got folks working from home for this period of time or that period of time, but they don't know what the rules are around that, and they don't know how they're supposed to show up for meetings, and they don't. So it's a lot of it is around the communication that helps increase the engagement. So if people know what's expected of them, they know what supports that are available to them. They're still being reminded of the value of the work they do. People are connecting with them. They remain engaged. But yeah, there are companies who have done that really, really well, and there are companies who they weren't doing it well, and they recognized it and went, "Hey, we need some support here," without getting into too many crazy details. Just having those, if you've got a remote team, having update meetings and keeping things light so people actually want to show up. They show up for the joke. They show up for the silly moment or the sharing about a person or whatever the thing is to create that engagement. So it's not just dry, boring, blah, somebody talking at them.
Right. You kind of want them to want to show up, right? It's one thing to have, hey, Friday Zoom drinks or whatever, but
yeah,
people don't want to be there. If they don't get joy out of it, then you've missed the point along the way somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Really interesting.
Sorry, not a great story in there. I'm always so cautious about sharing things about clients, but high level.
Right? I mean, when we talk about communication, I always think in my world, when I'm communicating to my team, if I'm not absolutely sick of the message and I haven't done it like 10 different times in 10 different ways, then I haven't done enough. Right? If I'm like, I know, I said it that one time. If I'm like, oh my God, if I have to say this one more time, I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, okay, I'm almost there.
I got it. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I read that somewhere,
Absolutely.
and always stuck with me. Well, let's talk about the future, right? Future, I think, is exciting. World has gotten smaller. There's overseas work options now. There's remote teams. There's virtual assistants. We've got AI tools coming out of our ears now. I've got some companies that went hybrid. Now they're going back in the office. Like, what do you see with your clients? Like, what does the future look like? Are people taking this engagement seriously? Are they talking about it in their strategy discussions, or is it kind of left to chance?
It's such a mixed bag depending on who you talk to, but there are a lot of companies. Some of what starts with the companies is the cover your butt activities. Like they have to have a process in place for this because there's legal risk to not doing so. So they'll have a diversity and inclusion piece. They'll have, because their client requires it, or the government requires it here, or their whatever. And so in order to cover their butt, they'll get involved in those kinds of things. And then they start to see the benefit. And that's the beautiful piece, is when they start to see the benefit to making people feel included, because it's not just the person who's a visible minority or the person who's non-binary or whatever. It's not specific to one person or one group of people. It's across the board. And so now there's this increased appetite for making everyone feel included. And that creates an environment where people are more engaged automatically because they feel like they belong. And at the core of any great relationship with anyone is that feeling of belonging. And certainly in your workplace, where you spend more time with those folks than you do with anyone else generally. So I think there's more of an appetite. Like some people, they just fundamentally get it. Let's do more. Let's do more for our culture. Let's create an environment people want to be a part of. There's so much research out there that talks about the correlation between productivity and engagement. So they want to do the right things, and they're hungry for it, and they're excited for it. And then there's another group that's like, okay, in order to cover our butt, and in order to meet this requirement, we need to engage you to make sure we're doing the right things. And then from that, there's this different culture that's born from that. And then they start to get on board like, oh, we're seeing it. Like we're really, we get it now. And training leaders to have the right conversations and not say weird offside things in interviews or in any space. And that idea that you treat people with respect all the way from day one, engaging them and involving them and making sure they know what their job is, all the way through to if that relationship you decide to part ways, no matter what they did, you treat them decently, kindly, and with respect so that everybody else sees that you're a decent employer and that regardless of who the person is, you're going to treat them right. And then that's the kind of company people want to be a part of.
I love that idea. I always liked, even if someone just applies for a job with you and they don't even get an interview, they're touching your world. So do they get an email saying, thanks so much, not right now, or whatever, right? Or do they just get ignored or what, right? What's that extra, take it to 11, that 1%, right? Okay, very, very cool. Well, Cher, I feel like we could talk shop all day, and maybe we'll have to go grab a drink and do just that sometime. But thanks so much for sharing your ideas, and hopefully people find some gems in what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, Adam.
Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.